This video is how to Canvas, using the math equation editor on Canvas. We're going to take a practice quiz for Algebra 2. So on question 1, they're asking me to convert hours to seconds. So I can tell already that this is going to be the kind of question where I'm going to have to go ahead and use that equation editor. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my scratch paper and write out the problem. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all is that when I enter these fractions into Canvas, I want to make sure that I have them going the right direction. The second reason is that I want to make sure I write out the problem, because as soon as I click on that equation editor, I won't be able to see the math anymore. So I know my conversions that I'll need is in 1 hour, there's 60 minutes. So I have to decide like which way to write that conversion, if I write it as 60 minutes over 1 hour or 1 hour over 60 minutes. I also know that I have 60 seconds in 1 minute. So now that I've got that paper written on my scratch paper, I'm going to go to Insert Math Equation. And like I said, now I can't see that original problem. I know I have the 4 hours because we're doing unit analysis. We're keeping those units on there. I need a time sign. My other option would be to use parentheses to show times. So if I was going to use parentheses, I would have to go ahead and put a parenthesis in first, and then you can see there's a little space there between them, and that's where I'd want to put the fraction. So for the fraction, I'm going to go to n over m. So I don't need both parentheses and fractions, but I want you to see how that works if I wanted to choose one or the other. So I know in order to get hours to cancel, I have to have them in the denominator. So on my numerator, I'm going to put 60 minutes. In my denominator, I'll write 1 hour. And then I'm going to arrow over to get my time sign. Again, I go to miscellaneous. I want to pick the solid filled in dot. And then to get back to fractions, I'll go to basic again. And then n over m gives me a fraction. This one I'm not going to put parentheses around because I have the time signs. They're really not necessary. Because I want minutes to cancel now, I'm going to write 60 seconds over 1 minute. And I can't press enter and get to another line. It's not going to let me do that. So when I'm doing equation editor in here, I have to do one line at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and insert. And now I'm going to enter, and I'm going to do the next step of the problem. Now I know that we like to go through and cross out all the minutes and seconds here and all the units that cancel, but we really can't show that on Canvas. So all I'm going to do now is do the math part of it, where I multiply 4 times 60 times 60. And I did that on a calculator. It's 14,400. And I know because my hours and minutes have canceled, I'm left with seconds. So some people are choosing to take an extra step of writing 4 times 60 times 60 seconds. You can do that, but you really don't have to. On question 2, I'm asked to solve an equation, and there are a lot of fractions in it. So again, I'm going to go over. I know I'm going to have to use equation editor because there's fractions. And so I'm going to go ahead and write down that original equation so that I can start solving it. Once I go to equation, I won't be able to see it any longer. So I know my denominators were 3 and 2, so I could multiply both sides by 6 in order to cancel all my denominators out. Because I want to show 6 times everything, I'm going to use parentheses. And my first fraction was a 1/3 x, so I go to n over m, 1, arrow down to my denominator, third, arrow to the side to do x, and then I've got plus, and then second fraction, 1/2. And now I'm going to move my cursor to be outside those parentheses, and I have equals. And if I multiply one side by 6, I need to multiply the other one by 6 also. So 6, and then I'll use parentheses for times 8. Okay, so now again, I have to enter just this one line. So now I need to go to my scrap paper and figure out what would happen. I know 6 times 1/3 would be a 2x. 6 times 1/2 would be 3. And I know that 6 times 8 is going to be 48. So because I don't need any fractions in this step, I can go ahead and just type it in the text box. 2x plus 3 equals 48. I'm trying to put spaces between all of my terms and my equal signs, my plus signs, all of that, so that it's easier to read. I'm going to just space over to underneath the plus 3 and put minus 3. And we'll do that on both sides. It's not going to be exactly lined up, and that's okay. So now I'd be left with 2x. I'm attempting to line up my equal signs, but again, they're just not going to be perfect. 48 minus 3 is 45. So I have some options now. I can write x equals 45/2 like that to show a fraction. The danger of that is if I have variables or if I have an expression, it's really easy to write the wrong thing and write something that's going to be mathematically incorrect. So I went back to Math Editor, 45 divided by 2, and I have it all set up there. There's my fraction. So in general, we're going to make less mistakes with the math when we write the fractions that way instead of with that slant. For question 3, we're going to have exponents. And so we have different options for exponents. We can go to the equation editor, but we don't have to for exponents. I'm going to show you 2 different ways. I believe we have 2 problems here. Yeah, if I scroll down, I can see another one with exponents. So I'm going to show you a different way for each one. So on this one, I'm going to show you how to use the equation editor. So again, whenever I use that, I need to go ahead and write down my problem on the side. And that way I know my first step. I know my first step is going to be distributing that negative sign. So now I'm going to type in 3x squared. I don't need to rewrite the original problem. That takes a lot of unnecessary time on Canvas. I'm going to go ahead and just start with my first step. So my first step was distributing the minus sign. So now I have a minus 4x squared. You can see I am using, oops, let me do it over again. For the 4x, when I go to square it, I'm going up here to sup for superscript, and that's what's raising that up and doing an exponent. And then when I arrow over, it drops back down. I'm used to doing this so quickly, I forget that I'm trying to explain what I'm doing. Now I'm going to scroll down and insert the equation. And now to do my next step, I have to press enter, and I'm going to have to go back to the equation editor. So I want to go ahead and figure out my next step on my scratch paper. And I also want to compare my signs and make sure I didn't screw anything up. They look good. It's really easy to make mistakes when we're typing. So 3 and negative 4x squared would be a negative x squared. Negative 5x plus 7x is a positive 2x. And then plus 2 plus 1, that'll be a plus 3. So now that I have my answer, I'm going to go ahead and click on Insert Equation Editor, because as soon as I go ahead and hit Equation Editor, I can't see that last step. I went to Superscript again to do my exponent, and then I'm going to arrow over so it drops back down so it's in line, and then I have a plus 2x, and then a plus 3. So now I can go ahead and insert this step. All right, on our next problem, we are solving again. And I'm going to go ahead and just use the text box for this one. So I am going to write out the original problem for solving so I can show adding and subtracting on both sides. And it looks like on this one, there's a lot of simplifying that I have to do before I get there. So I'm going to go ahead and add my x's together, and I'm going to try and space it over a little bit so that it kind of lines up. So I added the 9x and 3x on the left, which made 12x. Then I'm going to distribute 4x minus 24 plus 3. Okay, now I need to continue. I keep the 12x minus 5. And I need to put my minus 24 plus 3 together. So that'll be 4x minus 21. So now I need to subtract 4x on both sides to cancel out some of the x's. Okay, so now I got to think about what's left. 12x minus 4x would be an 8x minus 5. And you can see my equal signs are not exactly lined up. I'm trying, oh, it's not a 21 though, is it? There was a minus sign in front of the 21, so now it's negative 21. Now I'm going to add 5 on both sides. Okay. So now I need to scroll down. I can't even see the problem right now. So now we have 8x equals negative 21. This one's going to, or not negative 21, negative 21 plus 5, so negative 16. We can see this one's going to work out evenly. Now, I am not going to make you guys show the division step on both sides again, because it's going to require going to that equation editor to divide. And we are not going to mess with that. So I'm going to let you skip that one math step. I need to see all the pluses and minuses. I need to see all your distributing. But when we go to divide both sides by 8, I don't need to see that step. So if I divide both sides by 8, negative 16 divided by 8 is negative 2. All right. So down to our next problem, our last problem. Let's see if I can scroll it all the way down. All right. So for our last problem, we're going to substitute. And there's no fractions here. And I told you that there was a way to do exponents and multiplication just using parentheses. And then there's a way to do exponents with the screen that we're looking at here with just the regular text box. So I'm going to demonstrate that on this one. So first, I'm going to substitute all my values. So 3 times x squared would be 3 times negative 2 squared. And so I know that I just put a 2 instead of actually squaring it. And I'll show you why in a minute and how we'll fix that. But I need to make something that comes after the 2. Well, my y value is 5. I want to multiply that also. So I've got parentheses around everything except this funny 2 that should be an exponent. So I'm going to go ahead and select that 2. And then once I've got that selected, I'm going to go up here to where it looks like it's an x squared, and that's superscript. So just like on the math editor, it was superscript, here it is also. And then it's going to raise that 2 up. But I really need to do it when I have something before and after. It just makes it easier. So far, I've just done this with everything that's in here. I've got the parentheses that show times. I've got the square. Now we'll have minus 4 times x is negative 2. And then we have a plus, and then 5. So on my next step, the negative 2 squared, negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. I'll have times 5 minus 4 times, I'm just only doing my exponent. In my next step, I can multiply. Let's see. I think it's going to be easiest to do 3 times 4 times 5 as the 4 times 5 first. That'd be 3 times 20, which is 60. And then if I have a minus 4 times negative 2, I know that now I'll just have a positive, so it'll be plus 8, and then plus 5, and then my answer, 73. So I am all set with this problem now. I can go down and I can submit my Canvas quiz. So I hope this has been helpful. The equation editors, we're going to have to go for fractions and a lot of math stuff. There's a lot of things around in there. You might want to just even click on it and look for things. You can do absolute values in there. One thing worth mentioning, that if I want to do brackets, it's right on my keyboard. If I want to do parentheses, it's right on my keyboard. You won't find those in there. All right, thank you for watching.